take a few seconds here. We'll wait until we see at least a couple of
we're on
viewer buttons.
Got it.
I did do a webinar.
We'll wait until we see at least a couple of.
Oh, you're on. I got it. Somebody just jumped onto Facebook. So make sure your Facebook is muted.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll get a cycle.
Okey-doke.
We will get started in just a moment. To those who are joining us, just a couple seconds here while we wait for some people to join us tonight. That is probably the worst thing about the beginning of live, like broadcast things like this.
Yeah.
It's so fleeting. Like, are you with us? Are you not?
Yeah.
Do we start
Are
now?
you just going through? Or are you stopping in? I know when I host the live trivia, it's the same thing. It's like I see the numbers go. So it's like,
yeah.
Who knows who's coming in? There we go. Did we lose? Huh?
We lost Rosie. Hopefully she'll come back in just a second. While we're waiting for Rosie to jump back on, my name is Amanda. I'm one of the pastors at Mosaic Church on Roosevelt Island. There's also a location in West Queens, as well as a Spanish-speaking community that is growing right now. And tonight we are talking about parenting, and specifically parenting in a pandemic. Which now we're all experts at it, right? Because we've been doing this for 3 months. And so this is old hat. You know, we all had our ideas and opinions at the very beginning. And now we know what we're doing now, right now. Obviously, we all still are figuring so much out. But I would love for our panelists to introduce themselves and share kind of who they are, as well as how many kids and their ages, so that you know. And I'm going to let my husband speak for us. And our family.
That is a first, y'all.
How much time do you have for that?
I know.
That
Let
is
him speak. Dan, why don't you go ahead and just run down the ages of our kids, and then Ty, and we'll keep going after that.
Yeah, we have 6 children. Our oldest two are adopted. Markeisha is now about to be 17. Liam, our first biological boy, is about to be 13. Isaiah is 13. Eli is 11. Lucy is 8. And Judah is a monster and is 4 years old. Did I get them? I got them all.
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe you got them all. Yes. Ty, why don't you go ahead, and how many do you have? Oh, are we seeing them?
I just borrowed one because I realized I stole the shelving unit that has her pajamas in it. So she came in. I'm sorry, I gotta get my pajamas. Well, this is Alexis, and she's 5, and she's about to say goodbye. Say good night, everybody.
Good night, Alexis. Good night.
Listen to mommy. All right. So so we've got. I'm Ty Sullivan, and I'm a longtime resident of Sunnyside. Been living here for 30 years, and I've got 2 kids. I have Skylar Dawn Sullivan, my 11-year-old, who was my natural child, and Alexis was my foster daughter, who is 5. That's our story. Our little mini Brady Bunch starting to happen. Not ever going to be just like Amanda and Zan's, but it's
Yeah.
I think we're holding it there.
Yeah. You're good.
You talked me off the ledge. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rosie, how many kids and what are their ages?
So I have 2 kids. My oldest, her name is Karis, and she's 11 years old. She just turned 11 in May, early May. And I have a 5-year-old son named Nathan, and he turns 6 July 2nd, on the same day as my dad. So, my dad doesn't turn 6, but yeah.
Sounds like we need to get our kids together, Rosie, because they're like
right.
Age.
Yeah, they're
play date.
I'm telling you, she's a dancer, she's a writer, and Nathan is solid and loves to wrestle and talk at 3,000. The volume level is at 3,000, and there's no in between. There's whispering and shouting, and then nothing in between. So those are my kids.
I understand that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And Sophie.
Yeah. Hi, guys. So I have lived in Sunnyside for about 40 years, with the exception of 2 years where I moved to Virginia and thought I was going to lose my mind, and so came back to New York City. I've got 3 kids. My oldest is 24. My middle guy is 17. And my little one, who's 5. So I kind of joke around, and I always say I've got a child in almost every stage of life, in every stage of my life. So it's all different experiences.
I feel like I know. I'm like, Sage, tell us what what you've learned. Well, just to get started,
I think I forgot.
Yeah, right. As we have been in the strangest time ever, as a parent, especially in New York City, right? Where you guys just a couple moments ago were mentioning, 6th floor walk up, the parks have been closed. I mean, like, oh my gosh, so many things. I'd love to hear from you guys, what has been one of the biggest challenges for you of quarantine?
Fights, breaking up fights. Yeah, I mean, the aggression levels have gone through the roof. I mean, literally, I kid you not, we're at least with my kids, and I know Sophie and I have spoken about this. It's like the daily Hunger Games. By 2 o'clock, it's the Hunger Games. It's Lord of the Flies by 5 o'clock, and then
You're funny,
for dinner, I throw them in the bedroom, and it's Thunderdome. 2 kids in, 1 kid out. Whoever gets out gets dinner. So, that's been the hardest part, is like really getting them, because look, I mean, you've got kids caged together, and I hate to use that reference, given what we've seen in the world the last couple of years, but they literally have been just like locked down together, and it's been very tough. And it seemed easier like at first, because especially when we were doing our own at-home education and things like that. And then the schools got in the middle and it started meddling with their agenda, and so we had to like follow that, and that became even more difficult. So that added to the angst, the anxiety, the frustration, and trying to have one child who's an 11-year-old do her homework, and Rosie, I'm sure you dealt with the same thing there. 5 and 11-year-old have very different ideas of things, and then when it is time for playtime, their idea of play is very different. 11-year-olds want to go do this, and they want to play on the phone. The little one wants to play with dolls. I am a terrible doll player. I was never very good at dolls. I wasn't even good at G.I. Joes. So, I don't know what to do with it. And so it became that was the most difficult part, is dealing with, and still dealing with, the aggression, the neediness. I think it's another thing, and I know Sophie and I have talked about this with our young ones. The neediness has been a very big factor with the little ones. Clinginess, following us everywhere. There is no alone time. I spoke to a lot of parents, and I shared this information with Dan. I spoke to about 10 different parents from all over the place, from Arizona, New York City, California, Texas, and I asked them 5 questions, and if I can share them with you real quick before we move along. I spoke to 10 of them. 8 out of 10 said that their children's behavior has gotten aggressive, and their listening ears are not tuned in. Trying to get them to listen and really try and calm down, comprehend what you're talking about, it has been a great big struggle. 7 out of the 10 said that their older kids have transitioned to later bedtime hours and are harder to get up for school in the AM.
Yeah, that's
They're
really
now thinking, it's a free for all now. And if we stay up till 11 o'clock, well, then our oldest daughter wants to stay up till 11:30 and then wants to be tucked in. So the tuck-in effect is still there. 9 out of 10 of the folks that I spoke to said that they feel like complete failures as parents in the last 3 months. Yep, thank you. And I get an amen on that. It seriously, And that's taxing for us because they're picking that up from us. And they're sensing
Yeah.
our angst and our anxiety about not being good parents. And I've said, I hate the fact that I've said this 1,000 times. I've said, I'm the worst father ever. And that's not fair for them to hear. But I've said it, and I've said it many times, and I try to draw myself back. And that's been a big, we talk about the parental failing during this time, is allowing my insecurities and emotions
To dictate theirs.
to dictate. And yeah, that's been tough.
Yeah.
The other last two things that I threw out there to people was 7 of the 10 have concerns about their child's electronic addiction, escalating, as is they've already have that, and now having everything online, having their breaks like, oh, but I just need to go online for a minute, and suddenly they're dropping their homework. I know that's a big problem for us. Homework is getting dropped left, right, and center. And the final one that I asked the parents was, and this was only 4 out of the 10 have been able to get adequate alone time to relieve that stress if staying with the kids all day. And as we know, that's paramount. Everybody needs that. And as a parent, there's only, everybody, so much we can take. And, we keep putting them in timeouts, but it's important to remember that we need the timeouts too. So,
I need so many timeouts right now.
Oh man, I'm putting myself in for 5 minutes. Make it 15. I'm good. I'll see you later.
You know what? Actually, I've been 2 hours. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. That's
for
sure.
That's the one that was really hurting parents because they felt that because they weren't getting that, and not even time with their spouse or their lover, whoever they're with, but their time. Because that, especially the ones that are home with the kids. My wife just went back to work, and she's been working a little on and off here and there. So I've been at home all the time. So having that, if you can get half an hour, man, run with it. Folks, take it. If you get 15 minutes, do it.
For sure.
That's what I thought were interesting, and that's. No way scientific poll, by the way. That was all done through Facebook and texting.
It's all right. Sounded good.
Right. Carry on.
What about Rosie? What about for you? What has been really challenging for you during this time?
A lot of it is actually really similar to Ty's. I think, but overall, if I look at it and kind of step back from a macro level, looking down on our lives. During this pandemic, I think I would say it's just managing everyone's expectations, my own, my husband's, my expectations. It's hard to really get a grasp of that when things are changing all the time. There's hard news coming in. My husband's a pastor, so we're also dealing with a lot of the stuff coming in from his side of work, and just we have to have these conversations out loud, or we try to move it to a room, but again, our 5-year-old is coming in and needing FaceTime, and so we're just like, oh my gosh, like how do we have these, how do we manage all that? And so I know with that has brought, my kids being babysat by Animal Crossing, and me needing lots of times. I have my Instagram post of me sitting in the bathroom with like a bar of chocolate to just, I'm literally on the bathroom floor.
Listen, I get it.
There's another mom out there sitting on their bathroom floor eating chocolate with me, and you just need that solidarity. So
that's funny.
I'm an introvert, and so that means I get most of my energy from being alone, sort of being with myself, as opposed to, and so I can be with other people and I can be extroverted, but that takes a lot more energy out of me. So family here all the time, my kids, my husband. I'm a lunch lady and principal and teacher. I'm doing all these things. And so that trained me. So I've needed to take naps. I'm like, I'm not a napper. I've had to take a nap in the middle of the day. If I ever got to take a nap, I'm like, I need a nap.
Because, a nap, that's a novelty.
Yeah, I'm like, you won't like me if I don't have this nap right at this minute.
That's awesome.
And he's like, he sees the look in my face. It's like a crazy eye. And I mean, that has been, for me personally, it's been a saving grace just to do that. But it's hard. Your kids need you. Your 5-year-old needs something. Your 11-year-old needs something different. And then there's school and deadlines for that, and your own job, trying to have a meeting, trying to go to a training, trying to talk to Rich about, what's going on at New Life, and, people that were pastoring, and it's a lot coming at parents, and such a short turnaround time to adjust our life. So that's been hard.
Yeah. Sophie, what about you?
That was I caught on to what that huge failing was. I thought this was gonna be awesome. Like, for real. I was like, I can work from home. I'm gonna teach my kids, because I used to homeschool. Julian is still homeschool. So I was like, this is awesome. I'm gonna be able to have my desk here. I'm gonna put my computer and work. Ava's gonna sit right next to me. My husband's gonna be cooking these amazing meals. My house is gonna be cleaner than ever. And then it was about 3 weeks of what in the world is happening. And but it was hard too, because it wasn't until this one night where I'm just trying to watch a Netflix show. I was like, I need to disconnect. And I'm keeping up with those because my house was clean. I even bought plants, guys. I kill plants. I look at them and they shrivel up, okay? And I was like the plant lady all of a sudden, because I had to make my house, my small apartment, even more comfortable, right? But then it was one night where Ava was like, I want to sleep on the cot. We have a tiny apartment, guys. And our bedroom, it's not a lot of space with our giant bed in it and all the other things. But I was telling my middle guy, hey, can you get me the cot? Michael's over here on the other side of the apartment saying, what's she need a cot for? Ava's like, get me the cot. Julian, get me the cot. I want a cot. She doesn't need a cot. And what happened was the 3 weeks of perfection and what I thought was going to be happening just burst out. And I was like, can you guys please just get me the cot? But it was this battle cry more than... And then they all looked at each other like, what's wrong with mom? And that just I exploded, right?
That's always great, right? When they make that face, that helps.
Right.
That's a helpful face, guys.
Yeah. So for me, that was I think that was a huge thing, not those expectations of what I expected my family to behave like. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until you guys, Amanda and Dan, repeated a few times and said, there's nothing normal about what's happening. Nobody chose to stay home and work. This wasn't a choice that we had to make, right? And so that helped me. That helped me a lot.
This wasn't I've been thinking about staying home with my kids and I want to homeschool, or this is, it wasn't, I'm making a job change that I've, this was immediately forced on everyone simultaneously. Yeah. So great.
I always wanted to be a stay-at-home dad, so this is a real eye-opener for me. So, just saying, that dream...
The dream is dead.
Oh, wildly, it's gone. Sorry.
Dan, I'd love to hear from you. What has been something that has actually been surprising to you? Because really, the challenges, we echo them 100%. But what would you say has actually been surprising for you in this season, and maybe where you've actually, maybe it's been painful, but where you've sensed that God has been doing some work in you?
Oh, well, so much of it feels like a pressure cooker. Right, so everything is magnified by 10. I do know there's some resent that has been interesting. There's been a feeling of, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to pastor people this way, virtually, digitally, and I didn't sign up to homeschool 6 children. Good Lord. And so there's been a little resent that I've kind of noticed, gone, this is interesting. I knew pretty quickly. I felt pretty agitated. The amount of times kids would ask for the same thing, and so it really is. They would catch me just staring at the wall with 3 of them talking to me, because I just would go brain dead. And I think there's been I think a call from God to a place of more gentleness. Like, Dan, you are not as gentle as you thought you were. And not as affectionate as you thought you were. Like, I think both of those have been magnified in this season. And I have seen, I mean, it's taken a while, but it's been 3 months of me talking about that to Amanda, going, I think God is really is asking me to step into surrendering to his gentleness and surrendering to him, so I can hopefully change a little bit. But like even the other day, I got really frustrated our 17-year-old to the degree that, this has only happened one other time, but I took a whole glass
with
of
a different
water,
child.
with a
This
different
happened
child.
with a different child. Yes.
Whole glass of water right in her face, like hard, right in her face. And I walked outside for a few minutes. I was like, dear God, like, and I walked back in and I just looked at her and I grabbed her face and I was like, I'm sorry. Like, that's not okay. That's not okay.
Not okay.
And I don't want you to think that's okay. And even that level of vulnerability for me, I was like, you know what? I think I would have rationalized that crazy act about 2 or 3 months ago, but God's continued pursuit of Dan, taking you to a different place of affection and gentleness in this season. Yeah. Just be attentive to it has been surprisingly awful and good all at the same time.
Yeah. Rosie, what about for you? Same question. What has been surprising in this season, and maybe where you've sensed God doing some work?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, there's 2 ways God has been just sort of surprising me. One of them is, I've been on a journey of sort of discovering what God has for me. I've been a children's pastor. I've been in marketing. I have done almost anything. I've worked for JetBlue. I've done everything on the planet Earth. And I've been on a journey just kind of figuring out, okay, God, I have these gifts. What are these gifts? What are you calling me to? And it's just been the strangest thing. It kind of started in the beginning of the pandemic, where I was pulled out of a lot of things. Things just stopped. Things that I was doing, just my to-do list stopped. It's not that it had nothing to do, of course. There was tons to do, but just sort of this, I guess, of being a mom and just these things and expectations I had of myself that was shattered when we were all brought together and things were just like, okay, they're your plans, they're up in the air. They're just make something of this chaos here. And in that chaos, been pulling stuff out of me and just directing me and leading me and putting words in my heart. And I've been writing a lot of them down. And I have been just stepping into places for a couple of reasons, just because this pandemic and all the stuff going on with racial injustice in our nation. He has been just placing these doors, if you will, or these things in front of me for me to just step into and just say, go, do it. Say that thing that's on your heart. Do that thing that I placed there. And it's just been an interesting journey. And I think the second thing, this one's a little bit more closer to parenting. And I've done this before, but it's very similar to what Dan was talking about. Just apologizing to my kids regularly. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I just and I've seen the power in that. And not only am I reconciling myself to my children, whatever, with every breakdown I have, with every breakdown they have, there is this potential of either a severing of a relationship or just a little bit more chipping away of the relationship, or there can be this reconciliation moment. And I have said, you know what? I have exploded on them. I have just said things. I think you say that to your kid. Like, don't say that. And I've got down on my knees. I've looked them in the eye and I said, that was wrong of me. I'm so sorry. And then you see in their eyes just this connection moment of just a reconciliation. This is God's work here. Yes, I can talk to out there in Queens and I can talk about reconciliation, but I need to start here in my home with my family, with my kids, and with my husband. So yeah, God has been awakening me to things that He's placed on my heart for years that I've been sitting on. And just He's also been calling me to reconciliation with my kids by just messed up. messed up and I'm sorry. And let's fix it. Let's
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I can jump in, but I mean, I think looking back at this time, I think it will be impossible for my kids to not understand the need for grace. Like apologies given from me. It's just, it's one of those things that proves that we're defined by grace and not by our holiness or morality. And so, yeah, I'm with Rosie. There's a connection that's made when there's an apology that comes from the parent. Just a new level of vulnerability.
Yeah, agree.
I hate doing it. I mean, like there is definitely, I mean, it's one of those things, it's pretty regularly on the other side. I see the power, but man, is it a battle leading up to. I mean, I feel that still, even though I've experienced how good it is on the other side so many times. It's just like everything in me is like, no, I'm right. You know, don't do it. Don't show weakness. Don't show. And it's like, oh.
Or they need to learn that this was wrong on their part. And so you start own. And even just kind of, you know, I grew up in a Puerto Rican household and mom never apologized. Neither did dad. He's like, nope, we don't apologize. You're the kid. I'm the adult. So I have to undo that. I've learned this as a kid. You sit quiet and you do not talk back. You can't even say no. Even if they could be completely wrong, you do not talk back to your adults. Like, that's just the worst. It's like Armageddon will drop down on you if you even say a no.
That's funny. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to quote you on that for my two, because they just come back at me. It sounds like a CNN roundtable, like, you know, with them. It's, you know, yeah. So I'm gonna have you come over and talk to my kids, Rosie, and tell them about that cultural aspect, because clearly the Irish way is not working. The combative Irish way of like, sit down and eat your potatoes, you know, is not happening. You know, I'm not eating them, Dad. You know, oh yeah.
But I think that's why, you know, it's important that I'm doing this apologizing. My mother was a wonderful mom, and she loved us so much. But I've had to unlearn that as an adult, no matter what, even if I'm right. And it's been because I learned this hierarchy with parenting, that an adult and a parent is just God in a way. I've had to learn that really doesn't teach anything I want my kids to know about God, because right now I am God's hand and God's voice to my kids. And if I'm shutting them down, or if I'm just crushing them, this is their experience of God. You know, this is their formative years where they're being formed. We do genograms all the time at New Life, and I'm like, I am forming my kid right now. They're going to write about this experience in their book, and they're going to tell how
they're going to be telling their therapist about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So much learning of all that, and that's also that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey, I have a question for you, Sophie and Ty. I'd love to hear from you guys what you would like your kids to remember about this time. Before you answer, if you are watching, I posted it in the comments, the link, but we're going to be giving away a few of our favorite parenting books. There's some great resources out there. If you go and register on our website at mosaicwestqueens.nyc, just kind of give us basic information, we will send you a copy of one of our favorite books that have actually been helpful with some practical tools for parenting. So yes, go ahead and do that. But Sophie, Ty, both of you share with us what it is, kind of as you've now experienced 3 months. What are you saying? You know what? I really do hope my kids walk away from this time with fill in the blank.
Take it, Sophie.
It's so awesome that you guys just spoke about, saying sorry and understanding, because I've apologized so many times. And the other day, Julian, who's my 17-year-old, came back and he said, and I apologize. And he came back, and when I did, he's like, oh, Mom, I knew you were going to come back and apologize. It's like, that's pretty cool that you do that. and that's kind of one of the things that I really hope they remember, because they're going to remember this time, and I really hope they remember, wow, you know, mom got a little nuts sometimes, but man, she always apologized. It's okay to apologize. I was also super strict Colombian home. Like, I mean, there was no talking back ever. There is no, I mean, that's not even in the, you know, and so, again, it's also, I never heard an apology. You know, I just made amends with my father, who still yet to apologize. But I want my kids to remember, as they parent, always it's okay to apologize to your kid. It's not showing them, because there's this underlying thing where you think it's like when you apologize, you're showing weakness. It's like us against them, right? Like, we need to keep control of the household, so we've got to control the children, right? And so that's huge for me. But the other thing I want them to remember is how different this time of difficulty has been, that we've praised God. We've made like this choice, and it's really hard we've tried to focus more on praising God in the middle of the difficulties, right? And so that's kind of brought up some really tough questions, like Ava asking me, you know, Mom, well, does God love bad guys? And she's 5, you know. And some questions she asked, I'm like, hey, you know, maybe we can call Pastor Dan or Pastor Amanda. You can ask them. You know, but that's,
I'm like, here's a popsicle. I'm just throwing.
But, you know, but it's that, right? The fact that it's really hard for them, even though Ava's only 5 and Julian's 17, it's really hard for them to understand, like, wait, why are we praising if we're going through a hard time? Like, that doesn't make sense. Naturally, it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
That's really good, Sophie.
What
about for you, Ty?
I just wanted to remember that I had hair before this. Instead of going, what are you doing? Put that down. Stop it. Yeah, no, I mean, I really want them to, there's a couple things I want them to walk away with. I want them to walk away with a real idea of that life is a struggle, that, you know, everything's not going to be sunshine and roses, that, you know, there are people and situations that, you know, are going to watch the world kind of burn. And what do we do about that to quell that? What do we do about that as a community to alleviate that feeling of helplessness when this kind of struggle happens, financially, emotionally, physically? You know, and I told the kids when this first happened, I said, you know what, we've been given a gift. We have been given a gift where this is really going to give us a chance to be together, work together, learn together, hit a wall together. And we've hit more walls than we've probably learned. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm hoping that they're going to take that away with them. And they're going to be able to go out into the real world and cope with what is going to hit them, you know, when they get out there. And also you know, I talked about giving back a little bit. That's a gift that I have appreciated about this, and being a community activist and a community leader, I'm no stranger to getting in the mix and helping out with things. But for my kids, or I should say primarily for the 5-year-old, this is all something very new. My 11-year-old is used to giving back. She's always been there for the community. She's always been she's a Girl Scout. For the 5-year-old, we had the gift of working with you guys at the food pantry. And so taking me in and saying, hey man, what can you do? Can you be there? Yes, I'm there. Can I bring my daughter? Yes, bring my daughter. That worked twofold. Her daughter there and my daughter, and they got to be together. And that got them a chance to see other kids and be around other kids for that while we did good. But what I love about it is Alexis not only just looks at that as, oh, I'm going to go see Ava. No, I'm going to go play. She says, hey, are we going to Mosaic to help this week? Help this week. Wow, yes, we are. We're going to be. And look, does she help? You know, she's 5. I mean, you know, so many bags of rice and beans that she can fill up and help out with and put things on tables. But the fact that she's there and present with that is giving her the tools that she needs to say, this is how it's done. And this is because this is how I grew up. And, you know, having this happen to us and the way we've come together, and I thank all you guys at Mosaic. I mean, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing and an eye opener, and that's what I'm. That's what I hope they really remember from this time.
Yeah, and for those, really Amanda, we should probably chime in, and just for those that are listening who don't know exactly what Ty's talking about, the Mosaic Community Center, and really led by Sophie and Ruth Padilla, have been serving somewhere close to 1,000 food insecure families a week, and so they've gotten a lot of great neighbors like Ty involved there. And if somebody's watching that needs food, you can go get the directions from our website, and it's Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays it's open to the public. So
yeah, we're updating, and you know, between Soph and myself, and we're always updating all the Sunnyside and you know local sites on Facebook. So if you can't find us there, hit any one of those, punch in Sunnyside under your search,
you'll find it,
and you'll find something from us there. So
yeah, that's really powerful though. Just the idea of you know, Ty, as I'm hearing you talk, of so often when we're in seasons that feel like a pressure cooker, that are so hard and outside of our norm, we want to go inward, right? We want to fix, you know, we want to kind of hunker down, take care of ourselves. But to be giving kids a vision for, this isn't just about you. Like, yes, we do need to take care of ourselves, but at the same time, there's potential here for them to be kind of expanding their worldview, and a potential for them to be, and I just love that, the idea that life is not always easy, because we love to protect our kids, right? We want to protect them. We want to keep them safe. And there's so much good about that. But at the same time, that's not, you know, if all you've had is protection and then you show up at 18, 19, 20 and life starts hitting you, whew, it gets rough. I would love to talk a little bit about just some practical things that have actually worked for you. Again, we've been at this now for 3 months in this season. If you have anything that you go, you know what, this is a simple or could be more complex thing that does actually work. I'll start us off with this, and I want you to see right here on the wall. That's my kid's schedule, because after about, I don't know, maybe it was 6 weeks into this thing, and we'd just been trying to figure, I mean, it was a mess. Like, there were tears every day from somebody. They were fighting over the different computers, you know, because we have 6 kids that are trying to figure out how to be homeschooling. And then Dan and I are both trying to work, and we have the 4-year-old, which homeschool for him is about 15 minutes. You know, I mean, like that's the extent of time. Yeah. So finally we just said, this is it. We are breaking this down into half-hour increments, and everybody's going to have a chore and some sort of creative time and physical activity, and someone is responsible for the 4-year-old at all times.
That was the genius move right there, Amanda Jane. Yeah. That was the genius move.
I like how you wiped your hands with that one.
I will say, they have not stuck to it at this. Like, I mean, they have to a pretty great degree.
Pretty good with it, yeah.
But I mean, it's like it's morphed a little bit from this. But you guys, laundry's been getting done every day.
Praise.
I mean, the 4-year-old.
That's huge.
Has been being watched. Somebody's like taking out the trash. Game changer. And I mean, and again, like, I was telling them to do all of those things, but it required sitting down and actually going, okay, so how is it that they're going to have, and like, even for them to be able to see like, oh, I have a break in my day and I can go outside now, or I can play a game now, or I can, I can eat these. The other thing with snacks too, is I just said, these are the snack rules. These are how many snacks you can have and what kind. And if you ask me for a snack, the answer is no. Because I was getting a line of 6 of them spaced out by about 4 minutes. Okay, in between.
They wait just long enough.
Course,
they wait
right?
just long enough so you think it's done, and you're like, "Thank God, now I can continue in my meeting." And then the next one comes in right when you've moved on. You're like, "No."
It's terrible. But but all of that to say, I mean, the reality of the schedule, like being, which all of us have just been so thrown off our game, right? And so schedule is hard for me right now. Like I'm struggling with my own schedule, but putting the kids on, you're up at this time, you're doing this, you're dead, and being really tough about it and going, nope, what's it say? Nope, what's it say? That has given them like ownership over their own day. Mm-hmm. It's given them a sense of calm because they know what to expect. Yeah. It's not, they feel there's not that franticness of, am I going to be able to get my schoolwork done? Because they know they have enough time to do it, as well as, there's no FOMO if one of the other kids are, doing something. So that's my,
I like, and I think one of the kind of the overarching principle, like you're hinting at, is the reality is we all just experience some level of trauma. And I think it's important to say that, like, this was traumatic for so many reasons, especially in the context of Queens, like so traumatic. And one of the only ways, and this is like scientifically proven, to rewire a brain that's been impacted by trauma is through just rhythm and after rhythm after rhythm that communicates safety. Mm-hmm. And so much of that structure in place is just reassuring kids that in the midst of all of the changes and all of the pivots and even the hurt and the pain that they're going to feel from their parents as they grieve the death of somebody, it's communicating safety even in the midst of the storm. And so I think that's as silly as that looks on that wall with all that different color tape on it. Like that is one of the tools, one of the many tools that probably should be used to rewire a brain that has been through some significant trauma. Mm-hmm. So Amanda's also a master. She downplays it, but she's pretty freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. I think for me, another big one has been therapy. Just being really straight up every Thursday at 1. And there's weeks where I'm like, I probably don't have much to talk about this week. And I just keep the appointment, and to be able to verbally process through life with somebody outside of my spouse. Because the reality is that, I don't know if you guys have caught yourself like with hour number 200 now, sitting there with your significant other going, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe we're still in this. This is crazy. This is crazy. Yeah. And it's like hour after hour we've docked. And at some point that takes a toll on us emotionally. And so to have another outlet of just processing through that with somebody has been big for me. Tetherball. Amanda got me a tetherball pole for my birthday. So we've been spending half the week in New York City, and then half the week, especially the chunk that the kids are doing school, we've had the blessing of getting out of the city into the Poconos. And honestly, getting away from my laptop every hour with a child for 5 minutes to laugh, like belly laughter, as I beat them in tetherball. And
you have no shame in saying that, huh?
No shame at all. It's been one of the biggest gifts. It's been like one of those things where the tetherball pole was broken for the last 6 days. And I had some serious anxiety yesterday for some different reasons. And was like, freak, we need to fix this tetherball pole. I have not laughed. I need those aisles of refuge. So that's actually been a big one for me.
That's true. any sort of competition where Dan can beat the children. He's
duly noted.
Rosie, what about you? For you, anything practical that has been helpful?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, this whole pandemic season has been kind of broken down into little seasons. In the sense that in the beginning, it was just so ominous. And we felt the air was thick. There was weight on us. Nathan, he's 5, and he doesn't have language to express his frustration or his confusion. Kids can only express themselves verbally as much as the language they know. So sometimes they can't. I don't know what's happening and I have no language for it. So what do? They act out to just get it out there. And so that was an adjustment for us, just kind of like, why is he doing this? And then we were like, oh, okay, I get it. I know why he's doing this, and we need to have sort of leverage. And, we had that schedule thing. Let me tell you, we had a time log for the whole week. It was literally broken down in 30-minute increments, and that didn't come around until about 6 weeks as well. I was like, where were you all my life? Like, why didn't I think of this? I don't know, 3 weeks earlier. And that it was a real game changer, creating a rhythm of, okay, even in schooling, first we do the question of the day, then we do,
is that a yes?
Books. And so, we just sort of created a rhythm for them. And once we got that rhythm going, then it was just a lot smoother. And I think the other thing, also in the beginning of the pandemic, one of the things we started doing was we started our day, especially when things were just like, our world was exploding because homeschooling wasn't happening well. They were at each other's throat fighting. We started to say a really quick prayer before we did anything. And typically we're just like, hit the ground running, let's go, do schoolwork, let's get this done with. Which is funny because, we're a pastoral family, but that's just how our brain works. So it's like, wait a minute, let's pray. Oh, what a genius idea. And so we did that, and that kind of helped create this rhythm of, we're going to start our day. God is here. Let's make our kids and ourselves aware that God is here throughout our regular mundane days. And that was a real game changer as well. And then for especially the first couple of weeks when it was just really, really hard and there was no end in sight, we started reading sort of these little poems from Sally Lloyd-Jones' books, one of her books called Thoughts That Make Your Heart Sing. And they were so beautiful, and they were just so relevant to what kids, and she gave great language to just the angst that we were feeling. And we stuck with one over and over every time we read that. It was almost like a liturgy for us to just sort of close our day, knowing that it was a mother hen story, and that we were God is our mother hen, and He is with us. No matter what's going on, all the craziness, we're not going to school anymore. Everybody's sad. Everybody's saying the word pandemic, and we don't know what's going on. But being able to sort of just have this liturgy every night for a couple of weeks was just powerful, and it just really gave us sort of and so, yeah, I would say create sort of rhythms that will help stabilize, I guess, and just create something predictable, especially for little ones. It's been real.
That's awesome. That's really good. Yeah, that's a great book too. The Thoughts to Make Your Heart Sing. It's just, they're beautiful. There was a season where every night we would send the kids off to bed one at a time and read one of those. Like, it would just be kind of like flip through and pick one, and hey, this was yours for the night, and take this as you head to bed. They're just little devotionals for the kids, which are so good. And either Ty or Sophie, do either of you have any really practical things that you said, you know what, this has worked. This has been helpful.
I wish I was as wise as you guys. No, I really don't. But I think it has also to do with so it's like we're at the pantry, and one of the things, it's like, okay, this week we've got into a rhythm of this is how we're doing things. This is working. Oh my gosh, we got to change it again. So what actually, because I'm like a numbers kind of very A or B, I mean, I'm not very flexible. So change really is a struggle for me. Too many ideas is a problem for, like, I struggle with a lot of that. So for me, it's kind of been the opposite of what you guys, because I had all the structure. Remember, I had the plan in place, but it burned down quickly. And so for me, what worked was to kind of let it go a little bit. And then sometimes wake up and say, okay, this is what we're doing today, but being flexible with that, especially with Ava, who's 5, with the homeschooling, because, I mean, she's had to be like Ty's daughter sometimes, many times at the center, and she's like in a box playing on her iPad, and then I'm like, hey Ava, it's time to do your live session, and she has a fit. So at first I'd be like, you got to do it, let's go, and like, good or bad, she had to sit down and do the work. And now I'm like, you know what, it's okay, well, that's fine. So for me, it's just being able to be a little more flexible, so it's worked.
Yeah, that's really good. I've just like, that flexibility, which can be letting go, the ideal too, and giving yourself grace. Oh, it's really good. Ty, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I was going to say that day drinking at 8 a.m. usually helps a little bit. No, I'm kidding. Don't try this at home, kids. No, but starting the day, actually. Joking aside, starting the day with the kids, cooking for them, and you're there. Taking that time and that moment to sit with them, have breakfast. If I can get the older one out of bed, before school, but usually it's with the little one, which I think I don't want to weigh apples to oranges, but I think it helps her a little bit more. Get through her day, especially like we were saying earlier. Their attention span with these, this educational thing is 15 minutes, and so if I can motivate that child to focus through the whole morning, if I can get her to focus till 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning by spending a little extra time, that's what I've learned to do, and that's helped a lot. Until the Hunger Games hit at 2 o'clock and, chaos. Yeah, so that's my answer there.
Oh man. Yeah, those are all really, really good, helpful tips though. And I mean, Sophie, even though you said that's not something, that is actually something to acknowledge, that something's not going the way you want it, and go, you know what? I need to let it go.
Yeah. Well, and just to chime in with Sophie too, I mean, she has given us the model of what it looks like to care for your kids, communicate their safety and their priority, but also to give them a bigger vision than just themselves. The way that she's brought her kids into serving thousands. I mean, that's a big deal. That whole, Jesus says, for those that are worried about finding their lives are going to lose it, and those that lose their lives for my sake will find it. She's giving flesh to that right now for her children. So it's a huge deal.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to switch gears a little bit, because what we have found ourselves is that we're not just in one pandemic, but the country has awoken to the fact that we have been in another pandemic for at least 400 years. And so as we find ourselves now aware that there is a true sickness in our country and our cultures, and Rosie, I'd love to hear from you a little bit about what the conversations have been like in your home with your kids. How is it that you're talking about race, that you're talking about protests, that I mean, here's even for kids in their concrete brains, the understanding of, okay, you can't be with people, you need to wear a mask, and then suddenly they see hundreds, if not thousands, of people shoulder to shoulder going down I mean, even that is confusing for kids. So what has been kind of some of the conversation in your home?
So it's been interesting to kind of gauge what our kids understand. I've heard from a lot of parents and even my own experience with my 2 kids, with my 11-year-old and my 5-year-old. I asked them questions. Do you guys know, what has been happening recently? Has anybody been talking about things in your class on the chat? And just asking questions to kind of get an idea of what have you heard. And so my 5-year-old says, nothing. I don't know, nothing. And even my 11-year-old, she's just, I don't know, she's just sort of the shrug your shoulder preteen thing they got going. And so I had a choice at that moment to make. I could have said, well, they don't know what's going on. I'm gonna keep them in their safe little bubble. They don't need to know about race. They don't need to know about the riots going on. But then I kind of just said, wait a minute, that's not true. We have the TV on, and on the screen, it turns black, and all it says is Black Lives Matter. Rich and I are always talking about things that have been happening. Rich is doing webinars and talking to people, and on meetings where he's talking about racial prejudice. They're hearing this. They're walking by the door, the bedroom door, where he's conducting a meeting, or he's on the phone making their school lunch while he's having a conversation with somebody about this. And so I noticed that no, my kids are hearing about it, even though I may not talk to them directly, or even know they may be around while I'm listening to something or watching a news thing, or even watching something on my phone. Words are coming up, and visuals are coming up. And so I know Nathan and I know Karis, they've heard something, they don't have language for it. This is my chance to disciple my kids and give them language.
It's really good.
The confusion that's happening, or even the questions that may be bubbling up inside of them, but they have no way to give words to it. And so we would ask them, do you have any questions? No. And so one thing we've learned, especially about our 5-year-old, is he takes a really long time to process. When the pandemic first started, we asked him, do you know what the coronavirus is? Do you have any questions? No, nothing. Meanwhile, his head is under the table, his feet are up in the air, and it's like, hey, focus. And it's just like, well, he doesn't know. I could have walked away and say he doesn't know. He's fine. He's happy. He's a happy kid. And he doesn't need to know any of this. But then, I don't know, 3 weeks later, sitting at the dinner table, and he's like, has people getting sick from the coronavirus, has that gone down? I'm just like, really? Like, he knew it was up? Like, you know what I mean? We always talked about it, and we tried to, we were kind of a little bit pulled back on that. But once we noticed our 5-year-old asked that question, we were like, we're not giving enough credit to our little ones. They are exposed to a lot of information. And we, especially when it comes to racial injustice, we have a choice here. We can let society, school, friends, the media dictate what they learn. Or we get to choose what our kids learn. We get to choose the narrative in which they're seeing this event that we will always remember for years and years and years and years and years. And so now, as a parent, I get to pastor my kids. I get to say, this is what's happening, this is what it looks like, and this is what Jesus has to say about it. Instead of just letting whatever else that's just coming at them come at them, and letting them come to their own conclusions. Because what's happening is your kids are learning something about race, whether you talk about it or not. They are. And it's like, what do I want my kids to know about it then? What do I have to say? I don't have all the words. I don't even understand where it's from. It's new for me. And so I always encourage parents, talk about it anyway. And if you don't know what they're saying, so I don't know. But I want to find out. I want to do the research. I'm going to learn about it. And when I learn about it, I'm going to share some of that with you. Don't be afraid to say I don't know. Don't be afraid to define things. I sat down with my kids and we talked about George Floyd. And while I'm talking, I'm super nervous because I don't want to scare my kids. I don't want them to go out into the world fearful of everything, of police officers, of anything. And so how do I talk about this with my kids without scaring them? And I had to do a lot of slow talking, rewording, and I had to filter out something age appropriate for your child. You know their age. You know what they can handle. You know what they can take. And so just talk about it. Talk about skin tones. Talk about melanin. Talk about how, a man died because a police officer killed him in a really hard way. And this is not the first time it's happened. I even mentioned, a little boy who was walking down the street wearing a hoodie, and all he had in his pockets was a bag of Skittles, and he was killed for no reason. And that for them, when they heard he was like 14 years old, they were just like especially my daughter. And I said, how does that make you feel? And if your child, while you're talking to them about this, they get angry. And they get so angry that they cry. Hug them. Say, you're right. You should react this way. You should be sad. This is not right. This is not just. And God cries with you. And so enter into that uncomfortable space with your kids. Don't with it, and allow it to teach and heal things that we have learned early. So it's been a journey. It's been interesting. And I'm still learning myself about just different ways to talk to kids about what's been going on and how to shepherd them through that. And it's not easy, but it's really important.
Yeah, Rosie, that's really good. And I think what you said, where you said you have a choice, like realizing that, your kids are saying, oh, I'm okay, I don't need, and just having that choice to say, you know what, this is going to be hard and uncomfortable, and it's going to require work and patience and energy, but it is so worth it. And so it's so good and so right. And you have the opportunity to be the first thing they hear, instead of letting the world disciple them. Because it's going to be doing that their whole lives. As a parent, especially when we're following Jesus, to be able to have these hard conversations right away. And that's so good too about the just about their emotions. We've had some big talks with our kids. And if you know our family, our 2 adopted children are Black. And they're 17 and 13 now. And so angry. We're so just this. Things kind of finally this time are making sense for them. And they were so angry, and to be able to say, yeah, yep, and not try to quiet it or stop it, but just be angry with them. Was a really important thing, I think. Thank you for that. We are getting close to the end of our time here.
Hey, Amanda, can I cut in real quick? Because I just think that there's one important piece that I want to communicate for a lot of our community that is not a minority. So for myself, for you, I think there's a huge importance, obviously, like Rosie talked about, of making sure that your conversations about racism, privilege, power are happening on a consistent basis, and not just when it peaks in the news. Like that's a big deal, so that there is that language for it. But secondly, I think your kids are going to see through a lot of it as BS if you don't have close, intimate relationships with people of color that you are listening to and learning from. And if you're not actually allowing your kids to be led by people of color as well. And so for us, I know it's been really important for me to just keep on scanning, like, who are the Kim Wrights in East Harlem, or even Rich. Like, my kids have sat and watched Rosie's husband preach, because I'm like, I can't be the only voice that they have in this context. Like, I have to not only submit to people of color and leadership over me, but my kids I have to give them access to them, because I'm not that for them. And so I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that's really important for majority culture.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Yeah.
Couple things before, just some final thoughts and hopefully some encouragement. One, if you do not know Mosaic Church and what we offer, we have services on the weekends. We're live streaming. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to meet with each other in person again. hopefully. But we do offer a kids program every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. It is age appropriate, and it has been one of the highlights of our kids' weeks. We have got some incredible people who are pouring into our kids. And so it's a separate time from our service, so the kids can use the computer and engage, and they're playing games, they're meeting with the same kids each week. So I encourage you, if you are looking for a church, looking for a way to have some spiritual conversations with your kids, to get them connected into that. Again, if you want to go to our website and put your name in under this event, we'll be drawing a couple names to send some of our favorite parenting books as resources out to a few folks, just a chance for us to get to know you and hopefully stay in touch with you. And then lastly, I would love just for any of you to share just a brief word of encouragement for parents. If you have anything of just something we can send people out with some hope tonight.
Well, I guess I would leave them with the philosophy of what I leave a lot of people at my seminars and my talks, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with parents and what they're doing with kids, is that we're all in this human race together, and it's our job to get to the finish line as one. That is our job, period. Instilling that with your children, getting them, involved, like we talked about earlier, with the community, with the church, with their local leaders, really opening them up and making sure that we're in this, as this hashtag goes, in this together. But we really are. This is one race, and we got to win it. That's it.
Thanks, Ty.
I think one of the things that kind of goes back to what I said earlier is I think we're also really hard on ourselves, and especially now where everything is happening online, right? And we're watching how other people parent, right? Because we see their amazing pictures, and I saw someone post something about what their child was doing, and I was like, for a split second, I was like, wait, what am I doing wrong? How come my kid isn't doing that? So I think we need to just remind ourselves, just give yourself some grace, like what you guys told me, right? None of this is normal. At best, we're keeping the children alive. They'll remember this as like a weird time, but really, I don't know. I think it just goes back to, for us, it has been an amazing time of prayer, and even focusing on Ava, who's 5, and like the other night, I zonked out, and she woke me up. She's like, "Mommy, we didn't pray," And so in like those things, creating those things and those moments are so important. But also that gosh, it's so hard to remember. Like, it's that silly saying, but it's silly and it isn't. You practice what you preach, right? And really doing that at home with our children. And really, like, every moment thinking about, okay, what is this showing them? Like one day I was running around kind of crazy in the apartment, and Ava, she's like, "Mom, God gives us everything we need. Just relax." So what I'm saying with that is, I was like, okay, that was pretty awesome that my 5-year-old just said that. And it kind of took it like, wow, okay, Sophie, relax. You are doing something right. Like, there are things that are happening that are really good and nurturing in the family, but really just a whole lot of prayer, whole lot of grace, especially for yourself. Don't compare to what other parents are doing or what you think other parents are doing. And you know what? It's okay if your 5-year-old isn't reading at like a 10th grade level, you know.
Cheers to that one.
You know, I agree with you actually. I have 2 words that I've kind of just been saying back to myself: grace and truth, especially during this season. Grace with yourself, grace with your kids, your spouse, grace with others around you. Not all in your right working on, and I'm sure a lot of you we have to remind ourselves not to compare your real life to other people's highlight reels on Instagram and filters, you know, their filtered lives. You know, those are just the highlights, and we're not seeing the locked in the bathroom with the chocolate bar. We're not seeing but it's happening, guaranteed. And so have grace with yourself, grace with your kids, your spouse, and with others, especially during these really, really hard times. And then the truth is, be truthful, be honest, be real, apologize when you need to, say you're wrong when you're wrong, say I don't know when you don't know, and allow those 2 words to just to leave you. Grace and truth.
That's really good, Rosie.
That's really good. For me, there's 3 big things that I continue to remind myself through this. One, Jesus, I really do believe this, and this is the Christian worldview: is Jesus loves your kids more than you do, and so there's pressure that's off there for me. The second one, I'm like, and this is again the Christian worldview: Jesus expects me to sin more than I expect myself to sin. And so there's grace there for me. And then the third one, and this is probably where I struggle the most, that I really do believe that Jesus values the process as much, if not more, than the end product most times. And so when I'm just driving to get the kids done with their homework, or when I'm just trying to get that meeting done, or I have to remember that the way that I love Amanda and my kids in the process is the best testimony that I can give the world to who Jesus is and my kids. And so the posture has to be different, which comes from me cultivating practices along the way, whether that's solitude, whether that's prayer, whether that's silence or Sabbath. But those 3 things have been big for me, and I suggest that they become kind of central language for most parents out there.
Yeah, that's really good. Those are all really good. I just want to say thank you so much, you guys, for sharing and some of your successes and failures. We all have had so many of them.
I'll continue.
This season will come to a close. I mean, I think more than anything, the reality that this won't last forever. Yes, things are we're entering a new chapter in the world's history, and yet this specific moment won't last forever. And so to just go, man, this is what I have for today. And so thank you for modeling that well. Thank you for leading your kids, for asking hard questions, for not giving up, but for continuing to go for it each day. Also, sorry about that little Dan jumping off. We're in Pennsylvania. There was a bear around the corner.
There was a mother bear and cubs walking up on me.
No.
I have the window open here. Dan's over there, and I heard something metal. And I was like, Dan, I think there might be a bear.
I turned the corner because I heard something, and sure enough, I was like, oh man, we gotta go.
Well, the bear just wanted to put her two cents in on this whole parental thing, and what's going on for bears in this culture. And it's crazy.
Yeah,
I've been on a lot of webinars, folks. Never experienced that one before.
So with that, we say good night. Do not get eaten by bears. And thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And happy Father's Day this weekend to all the fathers. Ty, Dan.
All the dads watching out there. Yes, absolutely.
You're great fathers. We're so grateful for the men in our lives. So.
Thank you, friend.
Good night.
Love y'all.